Hi, everybody, and welcome back. And I say welcome back, in a way that's a little more exciting than anything. We have done a Business Machine podcast, and I don't even want to look when the last time we recorded. It's been a few years, so I'm glad to finally be back. We've tried to reboot this for a while. I love doing podcasts, and I love talking about business, and so I figured our first guest should be a winner, man. Should be just our best guest ever. And I couldn't think of anybody better to have on than my friend and partner, Clifton Sellers. And he's the owner and founder of Legacy Builder. I'm really excited to have you on here, Cliff. I don't know how long we've been working together, but it's been a while. And you and your team have just been fantastic for me. And just as a friend, I think it's been fun watching your journey. So thanks for coming on.
Man, absolutely. I am honored to be on here, and it's been a blast working with you, man. And I know the team loves you. You're one of our top people we get to work with on a daily basis.
Yeah, and everybody there has just been great. And Eric's moving back over to Michigan too, so.
Yeah, Eric's coming on more of a full-time role with us too. He's been kind of doing a couple side quests, and we kind of discussed this month he's going to come on in a more full-time capacity. So
that's great, man. He's a great dude. So just tell me, somebody asked you, this is a random question, and when you're out with the kids or, at one of their games and somebody asks you what you do, sometimes for people that don't know, it might be a little difficult, but what do you tell them?
Yeah, the funny thing I always say, there's people that totally understand what I do, and I can go into a lot of details, and then I call them the Thanksgiving dinner conversations because I was raised in rural Alabama. So the internet, social media, just all that stuff is like a whole nother world to them. Right.
Yeah.
And so in a basic terms, I tell everybody I'm in marketing. If I don't want to go into a lot of details, I tell them in marketing. When people really want the story, I tell them that we run a digital marketing agency that focuses mostly on organic content. So we believe that organic content is the foundation of all other marketing efforts for a B2B founder.
Yeah.
And so we come in and we say, hey, we're gonna take over your organic content, put out daily content, and really lean into founder-led marketing because we've seen a shift over the last 3 to 5 years. I think it's always been there, but with the iterations and the email inboxing, it getting stricter to get into email inboxes, competition going up across modalities and all these things, people are really starting to see that if you don't have a personal brand and a strong founder brand connected to your product, your service, anything like that, that you're really starting from ground zero and you're trying to make up a lot of ground. So we come in, ship out full content, build out the personal brands, strategy, outreach, all these things. We come in and make sure a founder's positioned well to dominate their vertical.
Yeah, and I want to get into the founder and why that matters. And I think, I've always said that too. Here, it's like they want to hear from the founder. I think they want, your customer, your perfect customer wants to hear from the founder. And they also want to see what type of, whether they work with you or not, they want to see what type of company that they're going to be working with. And coming from the founder is the way to do that. How do you do that for other people? I think that's always a challenge for any of us, right? Because just like for us, we're a digital marketing agency and we do social media messaging and digital ads for people, but we don't know the business. We're not, we try the very best to learn as much as we can about the multiple industries that we work for, but they're there day to day. How do you extract that? Because you're posting some of these people you're posting every day, and that's just a ton of content. So how do you extract that knowledge? Because every CEO, no matter what business they're in, they all have a different personality, they all have different thoughts, they all have different services. So how do you get that? And how do you get enough content to continue to do it for, 6 months, a year?
Yeah. So I always tell every time we sign a client that our goal is that they're going to post forever, every day for the rest of their lives. And the reason I say that and the methodology that we do it, I'll start back 3 years ago. Any service that we bring on a Legacy Builder, I always treat myself as client number one. And so for almost 4 years now, I've been posting every day on social media from the founder-led content lens and learning the ideology first of what does it mean to post every day? I think a lot of people think about social media and they start kind of getting back into hashtags and pictures and almost just posting for the sake of posting.
Yeah, I got in trouble for hashtags. I got in trouble for hashtags.
we have a no hashtag policy.
Yeah, yeah.
There are a time and a place. I have come around to more sponsored posts and some stuff like that having hashtags because it makes
Oh
sense.
man. All
But
right.
the day of hashtags, thinking you get like this super boost, most of the time you're just looking spammy
Yeah, yeah.
and it makes people gloss over. But when I first started, I mean, the process has formed so well over the last several years. And now when we start with a client, we really go deep, almost in like this form that we're in right now,
Mhm.
right? We treat it like a podcast first, like an interview first, because there's two things to working with Legacy Builder. Number one, we want you to feel like you have a content team in your pocket. I think when our industry started, I mean, ghostwriting, if you would say, a lot of people associate that with books,
Yeah.
but social media content, ghostwriters started. It came off as more of a hands off process. Hey, hand me your account. I'm going to grow it. You don't have to worry about it. Go do your thing. I got your back. My thoughts have shifted on that, and I really want all of our clients to feel like they have a content team in their pocket. Now, the way you don't run a content on daily is that every day a CEO is experiencing something, CEO, founder,
Yeah.
agency owner, and you want to give them enough of availability to you to where they can say, hey, we got this marketing push coming up. Hey, this awesome client win just happened. Hey, I was in this meeting and I need to talk to you guys because I think the problems that we're solving are changing a little bit. And I want to make sure that's reflected in my content. And you really want, we've put these things into place where people can reach out to us anytime that they have an ideology shift or something in their business so that the content doesn't stale out, because a lot of people start out and they're like, hey, we're just going to interview and we're going to pump content. But it has to be this revolving thing with a
Yeah.
company.
Yeah.
You have to, and all great content will get tired of it way before our audience does. And I have to remind clients that a lot. Hey, we used this post a couple months ago. Yeah, that doesn't matter. Hey,
Yeah.
we did this, this, and
Yeah.
this. Like a
And it
lot
goes
of
by.
people,
Yeah.
we get sensitive to repeating ourselves way before. If you go back and pulled up 3 years of Clifton Sellers post, they're all going to pretty much say the same thing.
Yeah.
They're going to talk about family. They're going to talk about personal branding. They're going to talk about content. They're going to talk about building a business. They'll say it in different ways, and sometimes I even repost and tinker with some of my top performing posts just because I know they resonate with my audience so well.
Yeah. Yeah, and the age of social media and how fast things go by and how fast that we see things. I mean, those messages go by pretty quick and not everybody's reading it. So definitely reusing content. I want to talk about though, because I think my thing and I talk about this a lot. Like we see all these gurus, right? I'll put you in that bucket, whatever. But we read all these books about people that are doing all this stuff online and working from anywhere and do this, but you haven't done this forever. This is relatively new for Clifton Sellers. You talk about this a lot, and I think you want your clients to talk about this too. But I really want to hear that sort of story at the beginning and kind of where you were and started from. It's that story of started nowhere near where you are today, but you were just a working man previously.
Yep, I was raised in a blue collar household. My dad made crude peanut oil for a living, still does,
Mm-hmm.
and had no idea anything was possible. Had no inclinations of starting a business. I was always had an entrepreneurial spirit, but I went to college, got an accounting degree. Didn't want to be an accountant. Ended up playing college football at the University of West Alabama. Started there for 3 years. Had a great time playing football there, and I graduated. And because I didn't want to be an accountant, I went into higher education. Worked in the admissions orientation field for almost 3 years before transitioning over to a development fundraising role.
Mm-hmm.
And I got my doctorate in organizational leadership with uh, every thought of being a vice president, president at university, or running a nonprofit for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
Moved to
Yeah.
Troy, Alabama. Worked at Troy University for a year and a half before COVID hit. I think a lot of us can pinpoint COVID as kind of a psychological change in what we're doing, right? Kind of made us all go home. I started looking at my kids. At the time COVID hit, I looked at my oldest and then found out we were having my middle child, and now we're expecting our third daughter.
That's right.
But I was like, man, I haven't seen my kids in years. That's the first time I said that. And I didn't do anything about it. I actually got another job. I got a job at a nonprofit here in
Yeah.
Birmingham, Alabama, where I live. Uh, and I got to see my kids a little more, but I traveled a lot more. And August of 2021, I was in just as most Americans, I was in a tremendous amount of credit card debt. Student loans were crippling me. Everything was going wrong, and I was doom scrolling on Twitter on the couch in my rental house in Calera, Alabama. My wife was asleep, my two kids asleep upstairs, and this guy online talked about these Twitter gurus. This guy online says I make $1,000 a week on social media, and I'm like, God, I was like, but I was rock bottom, man.
Yeah.
I had hit rock bottom. I clicked on this guy's profile. His name was, he had like Moneymaker 24/7 or something crazy like that. And he
Yeah.
had a $29 Gumroad course. And I bought it. And it was the most basic Word document I ever seen.
I know
It was just,
sometimes. I know.
it was like set up your profile, write a post. Anyway, but I always tell people, a lot of people ask me all the time, how do I do what you do?
Yeah.
The hardest part's going from 0 to 1. So my wife woke up that night and said, what are you doing? And I'm clicking on my iPad, and she's like, what are you doing? I said, I'm launching a Twitter profile. And she's like, what does that mean? I was like, I got no idea. And I went through, and I'm still working a full-time job. I'm not telling anybody about this except for a couple friends. People, every time I say it out loud, they think I'm crazy. So I'm like, hey, I'm posting on Twitter every day. They're like, nice, man, that's great. I just I'm trying Amazon reselling, failed at that. I'm
Yeah.
trying eBay drop shipping, still got the Sonoma towels in my garage.
Yeah. Yeah. Same.
I'm trying all this crap, affiliate marketing, e-commerce. Like, I call it the 7 rings of hell
Yeah.
on digital economy,
Yeah.
and just whipped my ass for almost 7 months. I got to January 22, less money than I started with, but I was just I was determined to not stop. So January, I was like, I started looking around, and I talked to a couple like accounts that were really big. And this is the thing, like every time I don't know what I'm doing, I look to try to find people that are ahead of me, right? Not 20 million steps ahead of
Right.
me, but just one, maybe 5 steps ahead of me. And I literally, and this is the first, no monetary value, but showing up for those 7 months gave me the ability to DM people that were ahead of me and gain audience with them. Okay. So I get on a couple calls. I was like, man, I don't know I'm broke. I don't know what to do. What's going on? And they're like, just post content about your life. Start talking about your life. Start talking about what's going on. So I did, and 10,000 followers. March of 2022, I hit 40,000 followers in a month. And I really fell in love with storytelling. And these moments that I'm talking about right now are every bit of what Legacy Builders built on.
Yeah.
So I started, my account blows up. So now I have a bunch of followers, still not making any money. And then I learned I have nothing to sell people. I don't have a skill, and that's why I only work with B2B founders, because they have something to sell their audience, right?
Right.
So I reached out to this guy. For people that have no idea how to be a founder, I say always start with entrepreneurship. So I found this ghostwriting agency, and I was like, hey, I will do literally anything you want me to do for money. And that sounds a little risque at the time,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
thankfully he picked writing. So he's like, hey, I need help writing. And so I came in, and I was busted out, man, like 200 long form pieces of content by myself a month. I was writing. So I wrote more in that time period than I've ever written in my entire life.
Huh.
And I worked with him for 2 months. He came to me, finally made a little money, a couple $1,000s. And he came to me and he said, you can do that. You can get your own clients. And I was like, man, I don't know what you're saying.
Yeah. What language
What
are
do
you
you
speaking?
mean?
Yeah.
And he was like, and so he showed me like, hey, this is how you set up. I mean, I tell people I made my first $500,000 as a business owner without a website, without Stripe, without QuickBooks, without anything. It was insane. I had PayPal and a Word document and a Zoom and Calendly.
Yeah. And
So
and a laptop.
and a laptop. Yeah, that was the most important part. So
Yeah.
he taught me. So I literally started 100. I was sending 100 DMs a day to people, telling them that I would write content for them. 100 DMs a day. I'm just sending them out. I'm just shipping them. I'm on my couch. I'm staying up at night. Finally, a couple people say yes to me. Started working with them, and that was the first real dollar I made. Like when I signed my first ghostwriting client, they paid me. My first client paid me $200, and then which is insane. And then he started working up. But then, as all founders, let's see, Siri's about to interrupt us. Okay, it's gone. But as we know, I've solved the main issue. I always tell people the hardest issue is finding something somebody will pay you for.
Yeah.
Okay, but once you get that, you run into a whole slew of problems. This is the business machine, right? This
Right.
is the podcast, and I. So at first it was signing a client, and then it was like, well, how do I get to 10K a month? So I got there in a few months. Well, how do I keep clients? And I'm like, so then it's like, okay, then I want to get to 30K a month. I get to 30K a month, and then so this is a guy that went from laptop or iPad starting launch Twitter account. In about a year, I'm making about 10, 15K a month.
Still working.
Okay. Still working full-time job. I'm getting to that part. That's the even crazier part. So I worked a full-time job. We'll fast forward a little bit, get to December of 2022. And I say, I get on a call with a business coach. December. He's helping me with my systems because I have no idea how a business runs. I'm just running one. Um, and he said, "Bro, you look terrible." And I was like, "What do you mean?" He was like, I was 80 pounds heavier. I was sleeping like 4 hours a night because I'm working 60 hours a week at my job and another 60 at my agency. And I said, "You know what, man? I feel terrible." He was like, "Bro, you need to quit your job."
Yeah.
And I was like, "I don't think I can." And he was like, "What do you mean?" And I was like, "Insurance, man. Freaking insurance." And he was like, in my homework from that was just to go research how to get insurance for my family without a W-2. So I literally go and I find it and I end up getting insurance. Well, then we circled March 1st, 2023 for me to quit my job. So I walk in and at this point, my job has no idea what I'm doing. I'm a
Like what?
I've
What are you doing?
I'm a vice president at this company at this point. I have reached the pinnacle of a guy that got a
Yeah.
doctorate. Everything's on track. My life's peachy keen. And I just walk into this incredible human being and this incredible organization. I say, "Hey, man,
Guess
I'm
what?
quitting my job." And he
Yeah.
was like, "What?" And I was like, "Yeah." And at that time, I was worried about like legal stuff. So like
Yeah.
I didn't even tell him what I was doing. I kind of was aloof a little bit. And I went back a month later and was like, "Hey man, I got to tell you what's going on." And I kind of told him everything, right? But he's like, "What are you going to do?" I was like, "Oh man, I'll figure it out, like and, and at this point I've saved up like 6 months of runway. I always tell people this part. I
Yeah. Right.
saved up 6 months of runway and living expenses because I got 2 kids and a wife that depend on me for income. I saved up all this stuff, and then the next month, Brian, we doubled the business.
So
Um,
when so that's that piece I think is always interesting too, especially for people that are listening to this. I think it's great that side income's coming in and you're starting to build this business. But like as you said, you had no idea how to run a business because now it's turning into it's different where it's one guy kind of writing content and then you're freelancing, but then you got to start thinking about, well, how am I going to scale this? And now it's too much for me to do, even if I do quit my job. So I mean, was it legacy builder at that time?
it was, but it was Legacy Builder with Clifton and a laptop, right?
Yeah,
I
yeah,
think we
yeah, yeah.
hired. I think we hired. I hired one more writer when I couldn't do all the writing by myself,
Yep.
and then and I think all businesses run into this. you do reach a crossroads. Do you want to do you want to go for it and try to scale your business as high as it can go? I think every business has an inflection moment where they can take advantage of the goodwill that they have.
Mm-hmm.
Or are you comfortable maintaining a certain level? And that's an important conversation, because scaling for the hell of it is not a good idea.
Mm-mm.
Like, you have to want to. You have to want that, because scaling comes with sacrifice. Scaling comes with a different set of problems. And summer of 23, right after I quit my job, I went through an employee issue where we had to let an employee go, early employee. And I brought in a COO for operations. You know Brett. Brett's
Yeah, yeah.
incredible.
That was a good move.
That was a pro move, because I love this, what we're doing right now. I love content. I'm passionate about our business. But operationally, I'm not. I'm weak. I'm weak
Well,
operationally.
you don't want to do
I
it either.
don't want to do it, and I don't think you can't, as a founder, you can't do everything in your business. You need to hire really great people.
Mm-hmm.
And so Brett had been working with us on a contract level a little bit, and I was like, "Hey, I need help." He came in as a partner, and he's crushed it. And we've scaled because accordingly.
Yeah, right.
But that's, you have to make that decision, and I made the decision when I quit my job. I looked at my wife, and that time period brought me and my wife together more than anything
Oh
I've ever
yeah,
done.
I know. I
Just
same.
talking
Yep.
through, hey, I'm quitting this stability. I'm going all in. I'm betting on myself, and I have no idea if it's going to work out. It could all go to hell in a handbasket. And she's been incredibly supportive. I wouldn't be in the position I am today without
Yep.
what she's done for me.
Same.
But when I made that decision, I made the decision to scale. And so we don't have crazy aggressive targets, but we have targets to grow year over year. And we work in our business every day. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
we work on processes and how can we serve clients better, and what can we add, what services can we do. We're going through an acquisition of an email marketing newsletter agency right now, so we can better serve our clients. Um, and I'll tell you, my word for 2024 was tempered. And I looked at Brett started this year, and we had a lot of goals ahead of us. And I said, I want us to aggressively attack these goals, but I don't want us to lose ourselves day in and day out trying to do this. And um, we have changed a lot structurally. And you kind of go from this like agency shop where you're like signing clients and it's fun and it's that, but then you have to professionalize. And I talk about that a lot. The reason I'm sitting here today is from a professionalization of services.
Mm-hmm.
We did that back in Q2 of this year. And we went from, I call it my guy, I say we went from guy with laptop to real business. I don't want to, I tell my team, I was like, we're not guys with laptops. We're a real B2B business. We operate the same. How we do contracts, how we do agreements, the professionalization of our services. We went through a core value exercise where we had been living by core values, but stating them out very clearly, and making sure they're apparent to all the stakeholders within our organization.
Yep.
Rebranding of our logo. I
Yeah, I
actually
saw that.
have the original Legacy Builder. I keep this hat right here.
Yeah, I
The
know.
original Legacy Builder logo.
That's not bad.
It, it was good. It wasn't great, but it was good. Now we got it looks like we're a SaaS company like everybody else, but the logo has a really good meaning behind it, because it kind of ties into the a sequoia tree growing up,
Mm-hmm.
and the concept of legacy. But I'll tell you, man, when we went through that rebrand, which was, you do this every day in your business, it challenged my belief system. It made me really hone in on what I wanted people to feel when they talk to Legacy Builder, when they see anything that we have, anything like that. Like, I will say this to your credit: people that understate the value of a strong visual identity
Yeah.
are totally missing it, because we
Yep.
relaunched, took 3-4 months, and literally when we relaunched our website logo and did a really good launch week around that, the people that started booking calls with us, the rooms that I started getting into elevated.
Yeah.
We got better clients, better everything. it was awesome.
Yeah, and I watched that transition, and that I think building brands for people is my favorite thing. I think it's one of the things that we really excel at, and I think it is important for how you look to other people. But I think the big power, and I bet you felt this too. To me, the big power is you get something that's branded, like you're like, oh my god, like that's the shit, like that is us, like that. When we did the same thing, and you want to talk about having a hard time. Imagine being a branding agency and having to rebrand your company. Like, I'm the worst customer in the world. And, but once we had it, this sense of pride internally that we've really got something here. And it was more like, yeah, that, because, the other brands were great. I think that we've had in the past, and we've changed our brand over the 14 years, I think 4 times. Our original one is pretty awesome. But because I made it myself, it's like clip art. But
Yeah,
it's awful. I remember showing it to my wife.
Logo free from a guy on Twitter. He sent it to me.
Yeah. But I think the idea is that everybody's all of a sudden they're proud of it, not because it's new, but because it actually reflects who you are. And I think I think people can feel that. It's kind of like when you're really, really confident in the work that you do, like you guys are, like we are. I think for me, selling our services, like, because there was a time in the company where I was like, you know what? We're not doing a great job on websites. And I could feel it in my sales pitches to where I'm like, yeah, we could do this for you. And then I'm like, can we do this for you? To where now, like, our process is super smooth and streamlined, no matter how big the site is. I'm like, oh yeah, no problem. And I'm just like, it's easy. That's what we do every day. So I think that power of that brand and logo, I think, is everything. And my favorite, I don't remember who said this, but I'll just say that I did, but your brand is what people say about you when you're not in the room. Yep. And it's like when they're talking about Legacy Builder, they're not talking about Clifton Sellers. They're talking about Legacy Builder. And I think that's the power of it. So now you're, into this where you're actually, you guys are hiring, you've got staff meetings, you've got all this stuff that you got to do. And, you're running the ship. And so a lot of times I think people who do this, they get out of a job to have more freedom. But what they do is they end up creating something that's even worse. And I think we've all been guilty of this because, sometimes I think we feel as founders that if we're not working, we're losing money. So now that you're in this, how do you make sure that you personally are not doing what you were doing when you were working a regular job and not seeing your kids and working 60, 70 hours a week?
Yeah. So you're 100% right. It's really easy to fall into the trap of like, the more I work, the more money I make, which is a common trap, but it's not true. It's just not true. Systems build success and build money. The number one thing I'll say to this point is having a strong partner and a wife is very important in this. My wife I count on her a lot to hold me accountable to the promises that I made for quitting my job. It hasn't happened a lot, but there's been times where at the end of the day, we put the kids to bed and she'll look at me and she'll say, remember why you did this. And it will be a day where I may have had more meetings than I should have. And it took a lot of time. There's a norming period when you first quit your job because you're really scared when you first do it. When you first start a business, you're really scared. So you're like, I got to put so much effort. And there will always be extra hours. But I'll talk from the lens that I can talk from having a wife and raising kids. There's a couple non-negotiables in my day that I just form my day around, and I just do it. And my business has grown with it. And I think it's because of it. So I wake up every day. I have breakfast with my oldest. I take her to school. I go to the gym. I come back, spend time with my youngest. And then every Wednesday for the past 2 years, we drop our youngest off at Mom's Day Out at 9:00, and my wife and I spend from 9 to 1:00 every Wednesday together. Sometimes we go shopping, sometimes we go to lunch, sometimes we go to Sam's Club and do grocery shopping. But it's uninterrupted time that we spend together every week. My calendar's block off for those out every Wednesday morning for the next rest of my life, and it's a non-negotiable, and that's our time. And I think, and then with business, we talk async a lot. We talk all the time async. I talk to Brett quite a bit. I actually started talking to Brett because he moved to Argentina.
Yeah, I know. I talked to him.
one thing to manage a team. It's another thing to manage a team in multiple time zones. We don't
Yeah.
talk about that in business. So Brett went from being 2 hours behind me to 3 hours ahead of me. Well, we found out shortly that we used to talk a lot in the afternoon because I would be wrapping up my day, but it would still be midday for him. Well, now mid-afternoon, it's dinner time with him and his family. And so let's pause for just 1 second. I want to say bye to my youngest.
Mm-hmm.
Can you clip this part out, Brian?
Yeah.
Okay. Come on, baby. I love you. Say hi to Mr. Brian. Look.
Hi, baby.
Woo!
Have a great day at school.
I love you. I love you.
I'm not going to school.
You're going to a doctor's appointment.
Oh, you're going to a doctor's appointment. All right.
Yeah. Yep. He was just trying to be nice, but thanks for correcting me. I love you.
They're wise beyond their years.
Yep.
Come on. Tell Daddy bye. So see you Monday. See you Monday, Daddy.
See you Monday. Love you. Oh, yeah. Okay, I can pick back up where I left off. Morgan. Well,
Okay,
then
cool.
he moves 3 hours ahead, right?
Yeah.
And so we get to the afternoon and it's dinner time for him. And so now I talk to him an hour in the morning at the gym. So while I'm working out, I talk to him. So I think you just kind of got to find ways to like engage. And then I'll tell you what, for what we are, we have pretty cool systems all our systems are built so we don't have to meet so damn much.
Yeah,
But we
right.
still
I know.
solve
It's a challenge.
problems. So Monday we have a 45-minute meeting where we address everything within our business and things that we can do. And we go through every client and every stopgap that can be thing. And we have this big chart with red, green, all these color codes that we made up. And we have a quick wins channel for all of our clients where we identify a quick win for each of our clients that week that we can try to help them out with. And it's worked. And I think that's why we attract top talent, because I want people to be able to live a really good life. I want people to be able to prioritize their family, their health, because I want to prioritize my family and health. But we work a lot. I mean, I work a lot at night. I work a lot when my kids go to sleep and my wife goes to sleep. But I always remember like, hey, why are we doing this?
Yeah.
Why are we doing this?
And I think that, it sounds way too simple, but you already mentioned that, and I didn't do this. And I think a lot of business owners and people that I coach don't do this either, but it's relatively simple to do what you just said. And it's just a matter of blocking your calendar and putting it on there. That's it.
You'll see so much fruit from it too, man.
Yeah.
I can tell, like, cause when the kid, like, there's always a wrench, right? So like when the kids are out of school, well, I'm not taking Sarah to school in the morning. So I have to be more intentional about going to the gym. Like you have to have, and I tell core principle number 3 at Legacy Builder is say the thing.
Mm-hmm.
And we cut through crap. We don't tiptoe around shit. So like if something's wrong, we just say it. That's with clients. We tell clients to do that with us. Like we don't have time to waste pandering and being passive.
Tell me you don't like something. No, I love that core value.
But Brett will look at me and be like, "Hey man, you don't seem good right now." You know what, man? Like I am not.
I am not. You are correct.
Yeah. My wife and I haven't seen each other a lot, or something, and I say do the same thing to him. So it's pretty cool, man.
I love it. So let's talk about mistakes. I know there's lots of them, but even as slick and well polished as you guys come across on social and work that you do for your customers, it seems pretty streamlined. What are some mistakes that, or at least what is one of your biggest mistakes that you made and that you would always tell people to watch out for? Because I think, it's like social media, right? Everything on social media is beautiful and wonderful and things are great. We don't talk about the hard stuff where, running a business, no matter what, I don't care if it's an online business in multiple countries, if it's something like my wife's business where it's an in-person business, it's one of the hardest things that we've done. I mean, her and I are both business owners and we talk about it all the time. Like it is one of the hardest things that we've ever done, but it's worth it. What are those mistakes, or what is that key mistakes that you guys saw early on, especially not being a business owner?
I could think of a couple. One of the hardest ones was early on. I alluded to a ploy issue early on in my career. And when you're starting out, you're just trying, like I don't know anything about anything. So I hire this guy, and he's doing a lot of the work for me with the writing and helping me out. I'm signing clients. And when I got ready to bring on another partner, he asked me, he said, well, whose 50% does that come out of? And I was like, whoa, my heart sank, to be honest with you. I was like, man, I was like, it. And then we went through the thing, and I learned really quickly, like, how important it is to have that conversation early on when you're bringing on employees. And it really taught me about incentivizing. Like, how do you correct? Because that guy burned out, and I take complete responsibility for that.
Oh yeah, I've done that.
Any employee that burns out, I take complete responsibility for.
Yep.
And I'll have another employee burn out one day. I'm not delusional, but one thing that I've found really well is it usually isn't about money. You can't raise your way out of employees burning out. It just buys you a little more time. And early on, when we bring people on, we talk about what incentives mean to them, and we tie it to company goals, so that, because you have two sides of burnout. You have, hey, the founder wants to optimize for productivity and profit, and then the employee wants to optimize for lifestyle and making money. So those are two competing goals. And so you have to incentivize where you're both probably losing a little bit. Like, it's almost like any kind of deal. You want to feel like you're both giving and taking. You don't want it to be lopsided. That's probably contrary to what a lot of founders and people running all these Fortune 500 companies say.
Yeah.
But I always align incentives where I'm like, hey, no matter how big Legacy Builder gets, here's a way that your money can scale and for you to make more money. And also, it's not, you could go make more money somewhere else, but I want you to understand these intangible benefits that you get from working here as well, with the flexibility that we have. And so that was a big mistake. And then another thing was just not standard operating. It's so stupid to say. It's like standard
SOPs.
operating.
I know. I mean, it's
like,
it's right.
We
You're right.
say, we'll get to those later. But bro, we had to let that employee go, and with him went so much institutional knowledge. And I always said, tomorrow I'll make a standard operating procedure. And we spent 2, maybe 3 months. And thankfully we have amazing clients. We have amazing people. We struggled. I mean, we basically had to build out all new standard operating procedures for the core product of Legacy Builder, which is writing and posting content. Thankfully, we're on the other side of that and we're better for it. But I wish that we didn't start from zero. So just operationalizing, like, I do a big thing now. I meet with my assistant every day. And how do you automate more things in your business to where, like, because everything, it's like a death by 1,000 cuts. Yeah. Oh, I'm going to go pay this invoice. I'm going to go do this. I got to meet with Brett. I got to do this. And now every time I do, I stop and I'm like, okay, can I automate it? Can I delegate it? Can I do something like this? Can I never do this task again? Is this a task I have to do? And it saved me a lot of stress in my head, knowing that, like, yesterday, I'll give you an example. Up until recently, I manually charge everybody every month.
Yeah, it seems so simple now, right?
Now it's like, well, PandaDoc, I can just put a little thing. It took me 20 minutes yesterday. I can put a little thing in there that when they sign up, it can. But it's just those, but they add up. If you do one little thing, I try to do one every day. Hopefully one day I'll run out, but I do these things. But one day you wake up and you're like, oh man, I have 8 hours of my week back because I did that. So it's and I can name a bajillion more, but I think those are 3 that are really hiring well and setting expectations, building out operating procedures. So when you do hire and you have a team, that it can thrive without you being in it, and the standard of care is kept across all clients and your service. Number 3 is just like buying back your time.
I know. Yeah. And that's the thing too. I think we've always been working on our operations, and I think finally we've got a lot of our procedures in place, but there's always work to be done, and stuff changes, and the economy changes, the environment changes, people change. I mean, so you are always going to be doing some sort of SOP work. Right. But, I'm the same way. Cause I'm always, for me, like it's writing proposals, and like, I'll get on a sales meeting and Emily writes our proposals, but I'm like, oh, I'll just put this together so I don't have to bother her, and then I'll worry about it, and then I won't do it. And then finally last minute, I'll send it to her, and it takes her like 5 minutes. And it's just one of those things where I think we always think we can do things, and it's just a matter of really, what are you focusing on? What is your highest value that you should be doing? And you know what that is, and we all know what that is too. Somebody just started today, or somebody's watching this and they're thinking, man, I want to be able to do something similar, but I just don't know. And they're working in a job. How do they start?
Man, I just had my brother put me in contact with a guy that called me yesterday and asked this exact same question. He said, how do I do what you do? And he was like, I want to help. And usually I always tell people when you want to start a business, you start in the Shark Tank philosophy. And you're like, okay, I'm going to invent Scrub Daddy or Scrub Buddy or whatever the hell it's called.
Yeah.
And I got to invent this, like the eraser on this pencil, like I need, or the Post-it note. And I'm like, nope, don't ever do that. Maybe you can, but it's probably likelihood of it happening is very small. So I told him, and this is because when people ask me this, so many people ask me this question.
I'm sure. Yeah, I'm sure. They're like, man, I want to do that.
I've been asked this question, and I love being asked the question. The reason you and I are on this podcast is not because we're any more talented than anybody else.
Right.
It's literally because we started and continuously learned, and when we hit a thing, it didn't beat us down enough for us to stop.
Yeah.
So when somebody asks me, hey, how do I start? Every phase of business is a zero. You're going 0 to 1 in some capacity every day. It's just a new one that you're doing. It's like you're trying to get somebody to pay you money. You're trying to get more people to pay you money. You're trying to get more clients. You're trying to create standard operating. There's always something you don't know what to do. There's a knowledge gap. And so he was like, I want to help military vet. I want to help you would like this. He wanted to help with marketing, but with marketing to military veterans. Okay. And I was like, that's very noble. I was like, that's awesome. That is not an offer. So I said, this is what I want you to do. And I will help you if you do this. And you can love or hate my man, Alex Hermosi, but I call him the Dave Ramsey of making money.
Mm-hmm.
And so I don't know if anybody's ever said that. Maybe I'll clip and go viral. So Alex Hermosi is the Dave Ramsey of making money, right? So because anybody can read his content, internalize it, and apply it. It's very simple. His principles don't change a lot. It's very simple. It's create offer, find people to pay you, scale your business.
Yep.
And so I said, I want you to buy $100 million offers. I want you to read it, and I want you to do what's in the book, and I want you to call me back when you're done. Because that's exactly what I did when I started my business.
That's great advice.
I read $100 million offers, and he literally screenshotted me that he bought the book.
Nice.
And so maybe he'll call me back. Maybe he won't. Maybe I changed that guy's life. Maybe I didn't. But I think we get too it would be really easy for me to be like, let me map out. But you know how overwhelming that would be for that guy?
Oh, yeah. No. Yeah. Then do this. Then rate this. I know. I'm overwhelmed every day. Yeah.
So I'm overwhelmed. So
I'm usually telling people when they ask me.
How about you just do this one damn thing? Yep. And if you can do that one damn thing and prove to me you can do it, I will show you the next thing to do for free.
Yep. My advice is usually like, yeah, man, don't do it. That's too much work. Don't do it. Yeah.
Don't do it. What's the Adam Sandler movie where he goes back to school as an adult? Billy Madison.
Oh yeah.
Don't ever grow up. Don't ever grow up. Don't do it.
Stay
here as long as you can.
Yeah. We always say that too. Those are commercials on TV, and my wife and I are sitting there watching them, and they're like, "Start your dream, do this," and we're like, "Yeah, no, don't do that," because then you got to worry about this and this and this. But I do like that piece, though. I think it relates a lot to marketing. It's the same thing, and we always. What I try to do with our customers too is like, instead of focusing on what we do, what I do as a business, it's focusing on the problem that you solve for your perfect customer. And that's as easy as marketing gets, right? Focusing on the problem that you solve. And I think for you guys, it's pretty straightforward. I mean, you're putting out daily content for founders and you're solving the problem because no one knows who they are. And I think, all founders are thinking like, I would like to do that, but when are they going to post? When are they going to do this? They don't even know what to write because it's funny because I remember going through that original process with you guys, going, well, I don't have, even though I've had 2 successful careers, this being my second one, 14 years in business, built this, this organization. I was like, well, I don't have anything that people are interested in. And I started talking about when Brett was interviewing me and I started talking about my story and he was fascinated. And, by the time I got done, I was like, oh yeah, maybe I have done some cool things, and maybe I do have some. Yeah, maybe I do have something to offer. And even talking about like the way I grew up and when I had, I had kids young and then I had kids older and my dad's military career and all those pieces that I think were super valuable that started to become my story, which wasn't, it was all true. I mean, because all those lessons that I had learned from him and being a teacher and having all those pieces all played into where I am today. But I always just assumed that that's just no big deal. That's the way I've done it. And it's just happened to work. But
I think that's the reason it's so easy to stand out online. I mean, easy. It is easy, because there's 2 things. Number one, we don't think our story is cool.
Yeah.
But I've heard over 300 founders I've worked with, and I get giddy every time we get a new client.
Yeah.
Because I know I'm going to get an opportunity to share their story.
Yeah.
And it's incredible, man. It's like, and we just we have this bias against ourselves where we just think we're the most uninteresting person in the room.
Yeah. And I think that power, whether, I think for you guys, it's kind of like when we make a brand for someone and they're just so happy with it. Like we made one for a roofing company and they've just been in business for a long time. They just, some young guy bought it, super excited. So he changed his logo and then we made the logo and they loved the first one that we made. And then all of a sudden it's on their trucks and it's on hats and and everybody was just like so happy, not because it was a really cool logo. Well, that wasn't really it. It was because, yeah, man, that represents how badass we are. I mean, to keep it as simple as that, they were super proud because they love working for the company. I'm not making them a better company. I don't think you're not making CEOs and founders cooler is the wrong word. You're not making them, showing people how amazing that they do and the work that they've done. You're just telling their story, I think. And that's the same thing with brands. I mean, we're not making companies any better. There are already some of the best companies and they've been running for, we're rebranding companies that are almost 100 years old. And obviously they know what they're doing.
I think you're just giving them a good brand, either from your angle or my angle, matches the confidence that the company already has.
Yep.
And it's another thing. And you've alluded, like, I can't tell you, you've said this to me. Hey man, I walk into sales meetings and people say they read my LinkedIn post. I had a client 2 weeks ago. Hey, I just went to a conference. 6 different people came to me and said they read my content online. Yep. And I tell the story of me in that Tampa bar about 1.5 years ago, sitting there ordering a drink. Guy comes up to me. Hey, are you Clifton? Yeah. And they're like, I've been reading your content for 2 years on Twitter.
Wow. That's amazing.
And he ended up working with me. He was an accountant. But It's like, you don't know. We get followers, impressions, metrics, all this stuff. I live in this world every single day. You can't comprehend who is reading your content. Yeah, I've been really diligent with my newsletter. Got on a call with a founder in Hampton yesterday. She starts talking to me. Hey, I read your newsletter every time you send it out. Thank you for doing that. I had no idea. It's because it's hidden. It's all hidden, man. It's like, and we want this instantaneous. I think from a creative agency standpoint, from a content agency standpoint, from a marketing standpoint, I wrote a post about this the other day, and I'm going to get on a soapbox just for a second. But we live in an instant gratification society.
Yeah.
We're always looking for the silver bullet. We're looking for cold email in 2021. We're looking for Facebook in 2016. We're looking for all this crap that is going to save our business in 10x, 20x. We're looking for the mean coins of marketing strategies. And the biggest shift I've had in my business is I look at all my clients now and I said, this has to be a part of your strategy. It has to be part of your marketing strategy forever for you to it, because you might not see it on day 10 or day 100 or even day 1,000. But if you string all these days together and everybody else isn't doing it, you will wake up one day and thank your lucky stars that you posted from a founder-led content on your brand every day for years.
Yep. And I think, you know, just like you never know what that implication is. And I think for us, what it's been, I think the two cool stories that I have, I think were just, one is you know, a former student of mine. I work with his mom. He's super successful. I mean, all my students are old now because I'm old. But she was like, Karen was like, hey, my son was like, hey, do you follow Brian on LinkedIn? I mean, he's really smart. And I was like, oh man, that was like really great, you know, because I don't feel that smart. And then the other thing too, that
smart,
yeah, the founder or the CEO of the chamber here in town, and Tim Damon, who I've always respected. He's been, you know, the chamber is just amazing here, and I just think he's done such a great job for Lansing. I mean, I was at an event and he's like, hey, I'm like, hey Tim, I don't see him that often, right? He's like, hey man, I get your newsletter, and I was like, oh boy. And he's like, I just want to tell you, I can't wait to get it, and I really like it, and there's just some real good tips in there. I was like, holy cow, like this guy, you know? And so I mean, for me, that matters. And I think for what that means for us is, I think down the road when, you know, Tim gets asked, hey, who should we be talking to? And, you know, for him to say, hey man, you know, it's just top of mind. Otherwise I probably wouldn't email Tim in a year.
How else would you do it?
I mean, what am I going to text him every day or something?
Well, that's the thing, man. It's like two instances for me. One, I signed one of the craziest clients this year. CEO of Mighty Networks, Gina, probably on one of my top 100 clients to work with. And she found me on Twitter. She messaged me. She said, I am your perfect client. Can we meet?
Oh, shit. It's amazing.
And I was like, yes, we can.
Yeah.
I will meet with you right now. And so we met 2 days later. Now we've been working with her for 6 months. She just renewed for all of 2025. She talks to all the clients, prospects, different things like that. She sings our praises. She's brought us another client. Second example I have, this guy that runs a really big supplement company that I've been following. I comment on his stuff every now and again. 2 months ago, he messaged me, hey, you do content, right? And I'm like, yeah, I do. I have no idea how you don't know that, but
yeah, that's kind of what I do.
He said, I got a guy that needs your help. And I was like, okay, introduce me to the guy, sign him the next week. You know, I tell people I've done things opposite of most businesses. I've gotten not 80, 90% of my clients all through my personal brand organic content.
Yep. Right. No, for sure.
We just started reintroducing retargeting ads and some different things like that to get in front of more people. Because at some point you have, if you want to scale to multiple figures, you have to introduce paid media. But man, I know when I go to sleep every night, this is probably my last point. I go to sleep every night and I wake up and I have an asset.
Mm-hmm.
If I really if shit hit the fan tomorrow, if I lost, if all my stuff goes down, especially with my newsletter, I got audiences buried everywhere where I could go right back to sending those 100 DMs a day, take all the experience I have, and I could drum up business. I mean, I have a skill that in an audience and something to go with it that can never go away, and that is the reason you should do it more than anything.
Yeah. No, I agree. Last couple questions, man. What do you hope now, personally, professionally, whatever? You talk about legacy; it's in your name. You talk about, you know, your dad a lot, and family, and what do you hope your legacy is? Clifton's legacy.
Yeah. I think the biggest thing for me, when I first started posting on Twitter, my bio read breaking generational curses and helping you do the same. And I obsess over the concept of generational curses. My biological dad was a drug addict. My mom was a drug addict. Their friends were drug addicts. My family struggled with it. First founder of my family. My kids have no idea that exists.
Yeah.
And so my legacy, I internally with my family, I want to set a new standard for our last name and what it means.
Mm-hmm.
Externally, I want to give people hope that you don't have to come from somewhere crazy. You don't have to have anything. You don't have to have anything. I literally started all this with nothing. I had nothing. I didn't have money. I didn't have skills. I never ran a business. I will say education played a huge part in it.
Sure.
But I want to give people the hope that if you relentlessly pursue a goal and improve every day, that you can achieve that. And legacy means a lot to a lot of people. And I don't think there's a one size fits all approach, but I would recommend people take a moment and really think through. I woke up the other day and my wife said, in 30 years we'll be 60 something. Yeah, I love you, man. I know you're my old man.
Yeah, I know.
But when she said that to me, it didn't register at first.
Yeah.
And I was like, what? And she was like, yeah. And I was like, oh. And I really started I was like, we're gonna die. That's so weird to say.
Yeah.
And I think for me, I want people to realize, like, in the finite amount of time that you have on this earth, like that I have on this earth, I want people to remember for how I made them feel. And I'll say one last thing before the next question. My daughter, the other day, we were in McDonald's. Cancel me for taking my kids to McDonald's, but
Whatever.
we go to McDonald's. She gets a Happy Meal. I'm talking to the lady. We get our food, and she says, "Why are you so happy all the time?"
Now
And I
that's
was
a
like, "What do you
compliment.
mean?" And she said, "You're just so happy all the time. Like, you're so happy to people around us, different things like that." I was like, "Because the world deserves it." And that seed I planted, like, I could cry,
Yeah.
I could cry at her saying that. So it's just, I think it's, how can I instill the principles that I have in my children in the time that I have? How can I love and serve my wife? How can I be great in my community? And how, when I die, my name will be forgotten, but will there be breadcrumbs of what I've done around me?
In that legacy.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love that thought of, my kids will never know, that it's not even that struggle, but I remember I can relate that back to when I was a high school teacher. And I remember talking to Zach, and Zach is this big football player, man, just top of his game, played in college, just a great dude, kind of wild, not a great family life. And I remember I used to have to he used to work with us at night because I'd cover the games and stuff and video. And so I'd take him home. And I remember him going, is it always going to be like this? Like, I'm just worried that if I grow up and have kids, that I'm just going to kind of take them down the same path. I said, no, man, it ends with you. It ends right here. I mean, this is it. From here forward, it's not going to be like this anymore. You're the one that can. And man, that was probably 15, 20 years ago now, maybe 15. And he's just created this family and this business and just,
Beautiful.
That's it. I mean, it's it, and he still is, proud of where he came from and something like that. But so, yeah, man, I love that. I love thinking about that. And I think time is, it goes by really, really fast. And I think that's something for all business owners and founders to really think about, because we forget about not where we've come, but what we're doing today. And so last few quick questions, man. Love that last piece. That's going to make my day so much. I mean, it's just really, on fire now just because of that. It's a good reminder to all of us. That's my favorite thing about doing these podcasts. Give me a book we should read.
Core principle number 1 at Legacy Builder: unreasonable hospitality.
Yep, it's right here.
I've got that. I read it. I send it to my clients. I read that book 2 to 3 times a year. And it doesn't mean unreasonably be ran over by everybody in your life.
Right.
I tell our team that all the time.
Yeah.
You don't have
There's a
you don't have
difference.
to get ran over to be unreasonably hospitable.
Mhm.
And so I think, and it applies to every business modality. I'm obsessed with restaurants. So how you can put those moments through your client journey, through your with your the people that serve with you, in your family, in your community, it can be applied to any area of your life. It's incredible.
Mhm. Yeah, I love that book. Favorite quote?
Closed mouths don't get fed. Clifton Sellers.
Yeah. I love it. Love it. If you could have dinner with one person, who would it be?
There's so many people. I'm going to go sappy. My dad's in the other room. I'll just go with my dad.
Yeah. I know, that's funny. I would do the same. Missed opportunities for sure for me. All right, man. I want some legacy. I need some Clifton in my life, and some Brett, some Eric, all your team. How do we do that?
Legacybuilder.co. You can search Clifton Sellers on social media channels. You'll find me. Twitter mostly. If you want every thought that I have on a daily basis, follow me on Twitter. Legacybuilder __. I post a lot about our business, but also just the things I'm going through in life, and I try to be very authentic across my channels. Newsletter, Branding Daily, that's hosted in Beehive. LinkedIn, I'm Clifton Sellers too.
Yeah. Well, Clifton, I think, the first time I met you, I think the thing that stands out for me is that you are, who you say you are. And I think that authenticity comes out. And I think that's why, for me, I think we'll always be in touch. And I appreciate everything your team's done. And I appreciate our relationship too, man. So thanks for spending time. Love you too. Thanks for spending time with me on your Friday. Get back at it.
Yes, sir.
I appreciate you. Clifton Sellers, founder and owner of Legacy Builder. Check them out. All the important links will be in the show notes. And thanks again for being on the Business Machine. I'm Brian Town. We'll see you on the next episode. All right, my friend.
Sweet, man. Appreciate
I'll see you. Yep. I'll let you
sir.
know. We're trying to get the process down to get these out. So
let me know when it goes out. I'll share it across socials and in my newsletter. Okay.
All right, man. Later.
Thank you.
Thanks.